Hello there. Lisa Starr back with you with another episode of StarCast Podcast. I'm very excited about today's guest, who someone else have been trying to get for months, because the place that he and his team have opened is the talk of the wellness world at the moment. So I'd like to welcome Robbie Bent, the CEO of Othership, to the show. Thanks for joining us, Robbie.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Robbie, tell us how you became a water enthusiast as you are described in some of the articles I've read about you. Let's start there.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. I've loved bathhouses for a really long time, just the experience of hot and cold, mostly as a social reasons. So I quit drinking 8 years ago. And my first date with my wife, she'd heard about the benefits of ice baths on the Patrick podcast. And it just said, hey, let's go and try and find an ice bath and go together. It feels like something you'd like. And so we went to a local Russian banya on the outskirts of Toronto. And that first day we weren't on our phones. We got in the ice bath together. You know, the cold plunge wasn't an ice bath, but the cold plunge, and just had an amazing date where any insecurities from a normal date just kind of faded and was without alcohol. And so that became our hobby for years. Every week we would go to bathhouses together. We lived in San Francisco and Berlin and different places around the world. And that turned into what we do on Friday night, Saturday night. We grab a group of friends and build these WhatsApp groups in different cities around bathing. And so when we moved back to Toronto, we decided to build our own healthy community in my backyard around an ice bath itself. And so we built an ice bath in my backyard, and that led to a community of 300 people in Toronto. And so at night, every night, we'd have a fire going, we'd have towels for everyone. And in the day, you could just come and use the ice bath for free. You could just open the gate and use it yourself. And so really...
How big was that ice bath?
Just single ice bath. At first, it was just a horse trough.
Amazing.
And, there'd be 6, 8, 10 people hanging out, chatting. And it's always...
One would in turn jump in and jump out.
Exactly, where people would go in one at a time when we started. And, this was 7, 8 years ago. So there wasn't really anywhere to do this commercially. Swim off is starting to become popular. It wasn't something that was all over Instagram. And the idea was, socializing, connecting right from the beginning. So always for me, it was really, bathing, water enthusiast. It's around connecting with others in a healthy way.
I love that in the way that Othership is marketed, because it's all about the social. You really emphasize that. Where did the name Othership come from?
Initially, we just put out a Google Doc and said, like, hey, what should we call this? And, there's maybe 50 customers or 100 customers, and everyone wrote down different names, and we just picked Inward. And it was Inward because it was an ice bath in this backyard in this small garage. And it's really about like going inward and this like meditative experience was, wow, like using the ice bath for the present moment. You'd hear it on podcasts. I just had to go inward. And so we loved it. We loved that name. And as it started to get bigger and move from a garage to a large space, it just didn't feel like going inward to capture the vibe of what we were trying to do. And so Othership really offers not just hot, cold experiences, but large scale breathwork concerts. We have a breathwork app. We do emotional wellness training. There's all kinds of different services that Othership offers, and going inward just didn't fit. And so what ties all these things together? And it was really this idea of going on a journey and going on that journey with others. So one is like the space itself feels like a ship. It's made of, there's water, brick, wood. It's very minimalist design. It feels like this space out of time, out of a normal city. So it feels like you're being transported on this journey. And the really cool thing could be a wellness journey, your longevity journey, your friendship journey. And it was this idea that we're all together. And so we really like, the Othership is the journey we're all on, but we're all working on different things. So it could be, a relationship, apprenticeship, mentorship, allyship, partnership. There's all these different ships. So it's really you working on yourself in a community with others. And that's what the Othership.
Well, it is a great name and such an interesting concept. Can you tell me more about how long it was between, I guess, Shannon's idea of you going to an ice bath? You were traveling around the world. What kind of work did you have that let you do that?
I was an early employee of the Ethereum Foundation, the cryptocurrency. Prior to that, I'd worked in tech for 10 or 12 years as an entrepreneur with different businesses, but was at the Ethereum Foundation for about 4 years. And my wife and I were living in just different developer hubs all around the world. And so it was
Fun.
we moved back to Toronto and we were working on the idea for a giant bathhouse. And we were working on that for about a year and a half. So we had traveled to, myself and my wife, and then another couple, Harry and Amanda, and one of my best friends, Miles. There's 5 of us. We're all super good friends. And we were looking at building a bathhouse. And so we traveled to many different countries. We did sauna master training in Europe, off-course training.
Okay.
And we had built the backyard as sort of a pop-up to just kind of build community and see what it would be like. And so from building that pop-up, and we probably started doing research in 2018. In 2019, we built the pop-up in the backyard. COVID hit, so we decided against the giant bathhouse. And then the first Othership small version, we self-funded it. It opened in 2022. So it was about 2.5 years, 3 years from, sort of conceptualizing the idea to opening our first real location.
Had COVID delay play into it, Robbie? Was it fortuitous in the long run that you didn't go ahead in 2020? Did you collect more info following? How did that play out for you?
Yeah, what was interesting about COVID is we were experimenting with a giant bathhouse, which is very similar to what exists worldwide. And because of COVID, we had this garage space and we realized that, maybe we don't need the food elements. Maybe we can focus more on this programming. And so there was no such thing as program classes in a sauna and ice bath that existed before Othership.
Wow.
And so it was really just experimenting in our garage with breath work and meditations, visualization and group singing and screaming and all kinds of different modalities that led to this idea for group classes. So if COVID never happened, we probably would have went forward with a bathhouse and it would have been a completely different concept, and there would be no Othership in its current form. So it could be fortuitous. It's still too early to say. I mean, maybe that would have been a better model. So it's hard to know, but yeah, it's kind of because of COVID led to a lot of experimentation in the garage in this smaller, more intimate class format.
I love that idea of what you do, and we will elaborate on it. The first Othership opened then in 2022. It wasn't that long ago.
No, it was, it opened, and because we had this garage, kind of pop-up space, we had a community of 1,000 people. So it started in the backyard, then became the garage. And so it was busy. Even though most people hadn't heard of an ice bath, there were no bathhouses downtown Toronto. It was busy pretty much, month one, profitable from day one. And we decided that
it seems funny to me, since you could go out in the lake and get an ice bath in Toronto. It's not like it was a hot place. So interesting that it caught on.
And there's nobody it was never marketed really as an ice bath. It was marketed as a social place with these classes. And so it was always people coming to socialize and hang out more so. We'll never in any of our materials really talk about inflammation or immune system boosting or, improved cardiovascular. We never mention recovery. We don't talk about any of the health benefits because that's not what we're providing. And yeah, people can do that at home. They can do that in a lake. There's a million podcasts that do that. We really generally are creating these incredible immersive experiences in groups. And so that's sort of the goal of what we do. And that didn't exist before. There was nowhere you could go out and, Friday night instead of drinks and go to see this Cirque du Soleil performance. And so in, month one, it was popular, profitable. We signed a lease, maybe 1 or 2 months later for double the size space in Toronto. And then we raised funding to open in New York. And so right after pretty much month 2 in February 2022, by April of 2022, we were looking for spaces in New York. And it took from 2022 to, July 2024. So almost just a little over 2 years to get open in New York from start to finish.
Do you have a second location in Toronto as well?
We have a second location in Toronto, which opened in November of 23. So that was about a year and a half in between. Then there was, kind of 7 months in between the second location in Toronto and Flatiron. And these 2 units are double and 2.5 times the size of our first one that we self-funded. And then we have
the first one in square meters.
First one was about 3,000 square feet. I don't know what the square meters
feet,
are.
great. Okay.
Yeah. And then the new ones are all between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet.
Uh-huh.
And so that's
kind of the right amount of space for you?
It could be not. So far the first one has the best payback and the best margins. And so we had kind of thought, this, first one's always full. It would be better to open something larger. And so we did, and we haven't hit the same level of utilization as we expected. And whether the market's not big enough or it's too crowded, it's hard to know. It's kind of balanced. The less capital efficiency is balanced with like a better brand experience. So in the newer, larger spaces, we do things like comedy shows, live music events, album listening parties, run clubs into socials. And it opens up a lot more of these giant party dance social environments where the first one only fits 51 people. This is very hard to do. So I personally think the larger spaces are a better brand experience, but some people prefer the smaller, more intimate vibe, and it's definitely more capital efficient. So it's too early to say which is the best. It also, it's only been open 7 months, so it's unclear, how it will ramp over a 2-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're opening another unit in Brooklyn, which will start construction in, maybe a month, 2 months. And it should be open in August of 25.
Will it be similarly sized to Flatiron?
It's similar size. Like we had this, we kind of had the success with the first unit, and then we went all out and signed 3 leases sort of back to back with the idea of like, hey, this is really working. We should open in New York. I made so many mistakes along the way. It was probably 10 times harder than I had expected. And it's
Was it?
Everything from the team to get this done, and just the amount of stress and problems.
Can you give us an idea of what a few of your big surprises were or mistakes that you made?
Yeah. So in New York, we had hired an architect, and it's pretty hard to find people with experience building bathhouses. Like
for sure.
2 years ago, when we were looking for leases in New York, there were no bathhouses. Like Remedy wasn't open, Bathhouse wasn't open. There's a couple that have been around for 30 years. And so there was no
Anya types, right?
Yeah. But there's no new build that a construction team had done. So when we're looking to build the pools, the vessels, there are no commercially regulated ice baths in New York. So it's unclear if the Department of Health would even accept them. Turns out that they're actually regulated as pools, which when we signed the lease, we didn't have to do that in Toronto. We didn't know about. And so we signed this lease, and we find out there's this very obscure bathhouse code in Toronto. And, our change rooms are co-ed because they're more capital efficient. And we always thought it was nice to be able to go into the experience and change together. There's changing stalls, but you're in the same room. And in New York, that's illegal per bathhouse code. And so we already signed a lease, and it turns out we didn't have enough space. And so we'd sign this lease, put down a massive security deposit of, $800,000 or $900,000, and then find out that like the model's not even going to work because there's not enough space. And so it turns out we had to rent out the basement. We had to cut into the slab in the ground and suspend the ice baths in the air from the first floor into the basement and put all our mechanical stuff in the basement. And why that is because when you have multiple change rooms, you need much more lockers. You don't know how many men and women will show up, and then in each
one of them's all on the main floor, of course.
Exactly. And so it just required, an extra 2,000 square feet. It cost an extra, $1.5 million to make those changes. So,
oh my goodness,
the price, then in New York, the price was actually 3 times what our flagship in Toronto was. And so we had especially when we were raising the money, had estimated that. So how fast these can get out of budget, even like we had built, my partner had built 7 restaurants in Toronto, and we built a smaller unit. So
right. So you weren't complete novices.
No, I actually think we were very well experienced and have built the concept before. And, we're way over budget in Toronto. We're way, way, way over budget in New York. And now on Brooklyn, we have a much better idea of what these things cost. But opening in a new city was massively challenging. Just the labor laws are different. The customer is different. The competitive landscape is different. The landlords are different. Everything was significantly harder. And then even to live there, how we run a 5-star hospitality service. And so we have very in-depth hospitality training. And we think that's what is the differentiator between us versus a spa, is the employees themselves are part of the show. It's almost like if you go to your favorite restaurant and the waiter is amazing. Like you're hoping they come back and they're talking to you, and like, it's not a spa where the staff fades away and leaves you to relax. The staff is the experience. And so, we've created a 200-hour training program for our staff.
100 hours?
Yeah, they're extremely highly paid, and they're like a lot of Broadway actors, music, professional musicians, and so they're performing these amazing classes. And to recreate that, I think we underestimated how difficult it would be versus Toronto because of how much time we were spending in the Toronto space. And so we actually had 12 team members living in New York in the same house, and housing in New York is $20,000 a month. That was the best deal we could get for 12 people was in Brooklyn. And so we were living with, a toddler, a grandma, a dog, 12 people in kind of a 6-bedroom place. So people were on air mattresses and bunk beds. And it took 5 months. And we're still not even at the level of what we need to be in terms of the hospitality we want. And so I think underestimating the cost, the time, the permitting requirements, and opening a new city was insane. And then even on top of that, it was like, okay, we have another one that we've signed and we're trying to build. Plus, the cost was too high, so we had to figure out how to get it down. So it's. And I think I bargained for this when we started for sure.
Thank you for sharing those details. It's really sobering. I mean, you're right. There is no sort of blueprint in a word for the bathhouse model yet. It's still very new for us in this country. Do you regret a decision to go right to New York first as opposed to a different U.S. city?
No, we looked. We looked at, Austin was one we were considering. It's because we have quite a large investor base, and because our offering is really focused on emotional wellness. There's a lot of people in Austin that resonate. The biohacker crowd, the people into sensation and psychedelic medicines, new age health people. They love Othership, but our community, and so that's why we looked there first. But it's turned out our community is actually mostly people struggling with stress that are corporate users. So founders, accountants, runners, people that love stimulation. And so New York is a really interesting place because it's so hard, but at the same time, if you have something truly unique, there's the most demand, there's the highest density. And so we just thought from a perspective of media, talent, news, influencers, as a tourist destination, it's somewhere that a lot of people that live in the US go to once a year. And so it's the hardest if you make it there.
You can get anywhere. Isn't there a song that says that?
Yeah, it has the most punch for your brand. And so now that we're open and, the demand has been 3x what we expected. And in month 1, again, we were profitable, which is pretty unheard of because our cost base is quite high. And so, New York has opened up for us. And for our brand specifically, we are offering something to people that are really stressed. And the offering itself is a bit fringe. It requires hey, I'm going to do this ice bath. I'm going to do it with strangers. I'm going to do this emotional class. It's all new. And so a lot of people that come into New York and Toronto, it's a more reserved atmosphere. And so people would come and, there'd be a segment that's a complete pitch black in the sauna with the gong playing and everyone screaming. In New York, in Toronto, someone comes their first visit. It's like, what the hell is happening here? And maybe it's scream and, in New York, the music comes off and no one says anything and people are just screaming. And so I think people are used to being in more crowded environments. There's a lot more transient people that are looking to make friends that are more social. And so the customer has swarmed. We needed to educate way more in Toronto, and in New York, it's just right off the bat, people are here. They're looking for something to do that's social, that's not based on alcohol. So looking back, I wish we didn't burn so much money learning all the different things that we've learned, but I'm very happy. I think it was the right decision to sort of
just feels like it was.
First.
I remember being in Tokyo, I think it was 2017. It was a Saturday night. And I was alone and I went to a bathhouse and I was fascinated that it was full of young people, and they have a lot of food there, like a lot of little restaurants that all serve the same thing basically, but they sit and they eat and then they go and they do their bathing. It was not co-ed, it was separated, but they would eat together for food and go co-ed. And I just thought, this is so cool that young people have this thing to do that we don't have in the United States. To your point, I mean, if you want to go out and socialize, you went to a bar. I mean, there's just weren't other options. So it's so great that you hit upon this as a solution for that issue, making it social and emphasizing that. I've also been to bathhouses all over Europe, all over the world, and lots of saunas and lots of Aufguss ceremonies. And when I came to Othership whenever it was, July, it was a very different experience. So can you elaborate a little bit for the listeners about how you have made it different at Othership?
Yeah, so our entire focus, there's no food. There's no services. There's just one sauna, and the sauna itself is massive. It's spectacular. It's built for performance. So everything from the custom lighting, we control the lighting, above the stove, around each bench. We can do all kinds of different colors and portraits. The lighting itself, they thought was like you're seeing a performance. The sound system, there's massive subwoofers installed under all the benches, completely like 4D sound that sort of rumbles your body. The guides in the sauna class, unlike off booths, are mic'd. They're guiding you through different exercises. Some might be singing and playing live music. So it is like you're at a performance, which is quite different. The light itself is programmed with the music. So, there might be breath work in the background with actual breathing happening where the sauna itself on the inhale is getting brighter and on the exhale is getting darker. So the sauna is breathing with you. So everything is completely synced. We've spent all our time mastering this performance sauna experience. And then the ice baths, there's no hot tub, there's no steam room. It's just a very dialed in experience. And the goal was to be the best at hot cold programming in the world. And because that's our main focus, we can pay our guides significantly more. We can train them better for these particular performances. And over time, we've created 28 different performances, and we drop new ones, once a month, once every 2 months, and we'll rotate. So it's kind of like, when your artist drops a new track on Spotify or something like that, it's very similar. And so, the most recent one we dropped was Pure Presence, which is an intro to meditation. And we're now working on another one called Unwind, which is combining traditional Chinese medicine techniques into a sauna ice bath class. We're looking at one next month around gratitude. And so the classes themselves, we usually listen to customer feedback and requests, and we'll combine things in 3 categories. So there's classes that are upregulating. It might be an 80s dance party where you're doing 80s dance moves and like throwing stone balls at each other and doing call and response with your voice. It might be an Arctic tundra where there's 3 back-to-back ice baths and you're high-fiving and squatting in the plunge and coming out and then doing breath work and movement to warm up. It might be down-regulating classes. So we have one called Nervous System Reset, which is using breath to reset the nervous system. There's sound immersion, which is live music. There's senses, which happens mostly in the dark, and it's a journey through smell, hearing, sight, feeling. Then there's all-around classes, which are a signature, and that's combining emotional wellness with the hot and cold. And so there's classes, as I mentioned, on gratitude, acceptance, which is, accepting challenging things in your life, perhaps a breakup, a death, a job loss. There's loving kindness, which is focusing on cultivating feelings of love to yourself and others. There is emotions A to Z, which is multiple emotions, and it changes every week. And so feel your emotions in your body. So it goes everything from, hey, I'm really into like more body-based, down-regulated stuff that's like similar to meditation, stretching, to I'm looking for kind of a workout replacement with friends, to I'm looking for a complement to therapy. And so we're always creating new sessions, and that's really the magic. And so those happen 4 times a day. And then at night, there's socials. And during the socials, it's quite different from a spa. And again, because the size is a bit smaller, we pack people in, and it should feel, again, like a performance or a party. And so we'll have things like stand-up comedy where 4 professional comics will perform in the sauna. We'll have read poetry. We'll have live music. We'll have massive parties with live DJs, saxophone players, whole thing with people dancing. And so just because our focus is programmed, immersive experiences, we're able to put all our time into them.
So many questions, but I'll try to keep it streamlined. First of all, the logistics. How do you build a hot sauna with sound equipment in it that survives that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of equipment that's built for outdoor festivals, for deserts. So it's actually easier to find, but it breaks faster than it would in the normal environment. So it's just having additional parts and a solid team. Like the maintenance for these things is quite expensive, which was also unexpected when we started. Everyone's breaking all the time.
And how about the maintenance on the pools themselves? Is there a lot of that?
The pools are better. They last longer, and it's like it's a less harsh environment. And so they're very similar to a regular pool. But, the HVAC, any benches, any like wood surfaces are degrading quickly. There's always problems with the air conditioning, the hot water. there's problems with pretty much everything. Like when you have 800 bodies through your space in a day, the requirements for cleaning are just immense.
So you're having right now in New York, 800 people per day?
On like the busiest days, yeah. So it
Amazing.
ranges from 200 to 800 depending on the day. But yeah, the busiest days from morning to night, it's slammed. And, you have cleaners there at 4:30 to open, and they're there until 3 a.m. So it kind of runs 24 hours with like consistent cleaners at all times. And so it's a lot to manage one of these where there's no days where it's closed.
I was going to ask him, there's no downtime.
We usually try aim for a bit of maintenance once per year on like certain things will all pile up that need to be fixed. And so we're trying to have like 3-4 down days a year and have like a mature space, clean the rocks, do different things. But it's work has to be done overnight oftentimes, which is expensive. So it's a very intense business.
Class that I think I took in July, I don't know if it was a hybrid. The woman who led it, maybe her name was Caitlin. She was awesome. And it was like I said, I've been in Aufguss, but we were more participatory. We weren't just sitting there. We were, banging on ourselves and making noise and, really getting into it. And then we all went and did the cold plunge together. So this is the part where the pedal hits the metal, right? Because I like to go out of the sauna and walk through a cold plunge and get out. I'm not one to stay in there for 2 or 3 minutes. But you have sort of this peer pressure in your setup to do it that encourages you to. And so in your setup, there are multiple cold plunges that fit 2, 3, 4, 6 people. And you get in and you get out. And we got in and out 3 times. And that 3rd time, I can assure you, I would not have gotten back in if I had been on my own. But I was in a twofer with a nice looking young man and he was getting in. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have to get into. And we screamed and all of it. And it was just like, wow, such an incredible experience. So I don't know how you hit on this equation, but it really does work.
It just has to, from starting in a backyard for fun and like watching how people did it. And, kind of the first programming was just explaining the health benefits. And great, I know health benefits, but that doesn't help me get in.
And you didn't have a sauna in your backyard.
No, it was just an ice bath. And then we started with, okay, let's set an intention. And we're like, oh, I wonder if we can add some essential oils. So you're smelling something when you're getting in. And then it's like, oh, let's try some sound instruments. But still like pretty basic. Then it was like, oh, let's do some breath work and a bit of movement. And then, over time, things just got added. And as we would go to some kind of, maybe a group singing class, like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder if we could do that in the sauna. Or we go to a comedy show. That's really cool. I wonder if we could bring it in. And so just over 5 years now, we've had probably 200,000 visitors or visits. And so it's just listening to what people are asking for, trying different ideas. We'll kind of try everything and just see what sticks and then, make things better and better over time. And so it's just all through
the true nature of innovation. I was really interested in your cold plunge pools in that you sit in them. And I thought, this is really brilliant. It must use much less water. Was that the intention?
Initially, when we built them, the idea was for a like sauna and cold plunge studio. And so we had the ice bath in the backyard that was just a horse trough. And then in the garage, there was no room except for an ice bath. And so that was something that seemed to be getting a lot of traction, to be very successful. And so the idea was just to have, no pools and it was just a cold and hot experience that happens in like 60 to 75 minutes. And then only in New York, because the code regulations are different, did we start to do like, 4-person. And now in Brooklyn, there'll be 10 and 18-person. So it'll be larger, but still quite small that you just sit in.
Well, I meant the idea of sitting as opposed to standing.
Yeah.
And there's some of them you stand in, but I thought that yours seemed much more efficient to me.
Yeah, less water. I mean, I think we'll go a little bit deeper in Williamsburg, and we like the idea that you're like crouching a little bit so you can get your neck in if you want versus like sitting with your bum on the ground. So that's something we're experimenting with as well.
So what do you think is the reason that the 3 businesses you mentioned, your own, Remedy Place and Bathhouse, are all open like in the same exact part of Manhattan? Like, what's with that? Is there extra good water there? Like, how'd that happen?
I just think it's the density of that particular neighborhood. So it's very close to Union Square, subway station, which is like the kind of center of Manhattan. And so a lot of people work there as well and are traveling. It's just a very easy place to get to from both Brooklyn, which has 4 million people, and Manhattan. And so the density, it seems like, oh, these three places are here. But if you look at fitness, there's like 500 gyms in that radius. So I think New York is still under bathhoused by, I think there could be another 50 bathhouses in New York, and they could still do super well with how many people there are in the surrounding area. So it's bathhouse can fit 1,000 people a day. Remedy is quite small. It's more of an upscale private experience, maybe 100 people a day. So it's really not a lot of volume there. And ice bath and sauna, they allow up to 3 people at a time, and they mostly have other services. So really, if we're talking hot and cold between Othership and bathhouse, it's in comparison to how large New York is. There's in demand for both of us. They're both full, kind of every day. And so there'll be more that come. But yeah, I think Flatiron is just the place where there is a ton of density in New York. It's the highest density around.
Have you been out to World Spa down in Brooklyn?
Yeah, and I met the owners, Leo, and I forget the other gentleman's name, but it's amazing. They gave me the full 2-hour tour of how they built every sauna, and the wood is selected from all these crazy places and shipped in. And it was incredible. Like I couldn't believe the amount of engineering to get that built in New York. So I mean, massive
place.
Probably 9 times the cost of what Othership was. So it's just, I know. So it's just on another scale of, build and design. And again, it's very, very different of why you would go. That's kind of a whole day thing. You'll spend 4 hours, you'll have food. They're like exact
very
opposite.
Much so.
Yeah, one is like a full day destination, treat yourself, more expensive. The other is, come 3 times a week. So they're very, very different. And it's amazing. I would say it's the best bathhouse in New York if I
really
go to one for the day.
Well, it is. I mean, I was impressed when I went it first opened, but it was quite busy, and there were a lot of couples and groups of, and again, people in the cold plunge, people in the saunas. I mean, Americans have really latched onto this idea, which is awesome. I love that. But I think that your programming is so innovative in that you basically, you don't have this massive facility with a ton of different options. It's one sauna and some cold plunge, and you've iterated through your programming and those different options you described. Is there any one of those that tends to be more popular than the others?
They're all pretty popular, and people like different things. Some people want a more introspective experience. Some of the classes are more quiet. In the morning, we have these quiet free flows where a cellist is playing and people are journaling. And so it just really depends. We try to have enough programming. So if you want something quiet and introspective, or if you want something super social, we recently started doing singles nights where you could apply and there'd be the same amount of men and women. And there'd be all these connection games, like literally icebreakers and the ice bath to get people to connect. So everything we do is just around connecting people in a healthy way without alcohol.
When I go to a quiet experience with a cellist, are you also guided into the ice bath portion, or do you do that on your own?
There's always guides available, no matter what. So there's always guides that will be doing aromatherapy, oscus and towel waving, guiding for the ice bath if you so desire, whether it's a class or a free flow.
How about the retail, Robbie? I noticed you have some branded merchandise. Do you plan to expand that?
Yeah, so we do all our own merch. And the way I think about merchandise is really branded touch points to continue your experience. And so, the body lotion we make, anything that's in the experience, we want you to be able to take it home with you and continue the Othership experience at home. So our smell, our signature scent, we created from scratch. We have our own incense, our own candles, create our own body lotion, deodorant, bath care, bath kits, the sauna hats and like bath robes that you would wear. So we've went even like down to electrolytes that we're creating ourselves. And so we only want to sell our own products in our space, and we want to create every single touch point from like the tea we make to the cups that it's in is all like handcrafted and designed specifically for the experience. So it's not a big seller to date. It's probably sub 1% of revenue, but I think over time it's just more of a nice branded touch that feels premium for the customer.
Well, hopefully you can grow that via e-commerce so people can have a piece of the Othership experience. Even if they can't go there. Does someone manage that on your team? Like someone manages all the retail?
That's the whole issue. Also, like we're just going so fast that everything has broken in the last year, and we're just trying to fix, when you go from one studio to 2, and then you open another one in a new country, and the second one in that country is just quite a disaster. And so we're working through everything now. But yeah, the goal is to have to sell e-commerce.
So would you have pictured this, Robbie, like in 2020, where you're sitting now? Is this what you saw for yourself?
No, I mean, I'm from a small city. And so to even open in Toronto was like, wow, this is crazy. And like the thought that we would open something successful in Flatiron in New York and then have, all these people coming and loving the experience, and never in my wildest dreams would I thought that was even possible.
So let's project ahead another 5 years. Like, how many other ships do you think you'll be presiding over?
I don't know. Some days, like last year, I was like, oh, it's going to be 50. We're going to go super fast. We're going to be in all these cities. And that's now knowing how hard it is, I think the team is more concerned with being the best and just having an incredible experience. And so we might go a bit slower and just, I think world where there's 7 or 8 in New York is definitely feasible. Maybe a couple other cities in the Northeast, but I don't know. I think the last few months were really, 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 really challenging. So just kind of.
Do you imagine, I mean, you and your family have to move to New York and live in this situation and have all these things happening that you hadn't expected. I mean, talk about stress. How often do you partake yourself of what you offer?
A lot. Like it's probably, I used to, exercise, eat healthy, meditate, all these things. And now Othership's the only one that I still do. And so, because it's also like work, like I'm there, I'm watching, I'm auditing and, testing the new classes. So I'm in four times a week minimum for 5 years. I've done more than 500 classes. Like I love it. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do. So I'm just using it every day.
So you were able to find a management team for New York that you could leave there and feel confident and that you could go back home?
We'll see. Like right now, it's actually mostly our Toronto team still living there. And so my wife and I have come home. Our son started school. 2 of my partners who lead all our guide training, our co-founders, they're, just hired their second cohort of guides. So we have 26 guides now and they're all onboarding. 2 of our best managers are living there and they're staying until, kind of January, but they're Toronto managers. So we're still in the process of training up the New York team. Mm-hmm. And it will take, it's like a restaurant where 6 months in, it's still not perfect. And it kind of takes a year, 2 years to like really understand what the experience should be. So we're just, there's still a lot of work ahead.
Well, I marvel at your ability to scale. Honestly, it's happened very quickly. I mean, do you have any concerns about the length of interest in contrast therapy that the consumers will have?
No, I mean, I think it's endless. And I've been doing it for 8 years. And of any habit I've had, I can't even go a week without, if I'm gone, I'm like, oh, fuck, I want to go. And it's like exercise in terms of the endorphin release, but it's just there's much less friction. So if you call me and you're like, hey, let's go to a sauna tonight at 9 p.m. Oh, fuck yeah. Like I'm pumped, Whereas if you're like, oh, let's go for a workout, like, I'm just kind of tired. So I think, this has also been around since the beginning of time in all cultures outside of the US, Canada, and the UK, like you mentioned, in Japan and Turkey, the hammam, and Mexico, the temazcal, and Russia, the banya, there's examples everywhere. So I think it's something that humans have done since the beginning of time. So I have no doubt that this will just grow and grow and grow, very similar to where exercise was 20 years ago. There was, no such thing as Equinox or any boutique fitness. And now majority of people will try to do exercise or yoga, or at least know it's good for you. So I feel there's a huge demand from the customer to do healthy things with gathering. People work from home now. They order Uber Eats. They're more lonely than ever. They're drinking less. They're less likely to belong to a religion. So what is going to fill that gap? And I think there's just will be enormous demand for social experiences that are healthy for a very long time. So I have no concerns at all.
Well, that's well said. And I don't think anybody is providing more bang for the buck than what you're doing at Othership. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
And thank you again for joining us, Robbie Bent, Othership, soon to be, who knows, maybe one in a neighborhood near you sometime soon. Thanks again for making time out of your crazy schedule to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.